Okay, so again, my name is Mike Ealings. I'm the general manager of Total Registration. And this webinar today is going to go through the configuration process. So maybe some of you have already started that or you have yet to start it. If you haven't configured on your dashboard, this school has already been configured. So there's not a link on our dashboard, but you'll have a link on your dashboard here to configure. And you can just click that. When you click it, it's going to take you to a page like this. If you haven't started, it's going to put you right into the configuration interview. So we're going to click that. So the configuration interview has several steps. There's a bunch of pages to configure, and the interview is going to walk you through them page by page. They are sequential, so they do need to be done in order. So we do not allow you to kind of skip ahead and go down and manage the exams without doing these other things, because answers that you select on earlier pages can affect what happens on later pages. So the configuration is sequential. After you complete a page, you will be able to access the pages you've completed individually. And when you get all the way to the end, you'll be able to access any page individually from the configuration page. So we're going to go ahead and click on the continue interview. It skipped a page on me. There is a page that allows you to, let me do one thing real quick here. Let me go back so we can see that. I apologize. We added a new feature this year where you can use some suggested settings by TR. So I wanted to show you that page really quick. Oh, we have when the first page of the interview is going to show you just some helpful items about how the pages are laid out. So at the top of most of our pages, we have this question mark. If you ever are on a page and you want some help specific to that page, you can click that question mark. On pages, especially on the configuration pages, you'll find these info bubbles. These, when you put your mouse on them, open a box like this, which will explain a lot more about what that value is. So we know that some of the labels are kind of Spartan. So if you want to see a lot more information about that, click on the I. And then anytime, if you ever want help, if you need to ask support for support, you can come up here and you can click request support and submit a ticket. Many of you have worked with us for many years, and you know that we are very quick to answer the support questions that come into our help desk. So you can, those are all some great things. And then also on pages, we have some boxes of information. The ones that are in blue are informational. They're always on the page. Yellow boxes are warnings. They're not errors, they're warnings, they're static. So they are also always on the page. So it doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It's just giving you some things to look out for. And then red boxes contain errors and they have to be corrected. So if you have a red box, a red text box like this on the screen, there is an error. The second page of the configuration interview is the suggested settings. So Total Registration has been helping schools since 2007. So over those 16 years, we have learned a lot of best practices. And so these suggested settings implement these best practices. So all of these fees and dates and things like that are calculated based off of the College Board's pricing. So these are the suggested settings. One of the things that you could do is you can accept these settings, and what it will do is it'll pre-populate these values into the various pages. When you get to those pages, you'll see the pre-populated value. you have the ability to edit it. So you are not forced to use these settings. This is just a great way to get stuff set up pretty quickly. Using the suggested settings will speed up your configuration because you won't have to struggle about some things. It also gives you a great foundation of things. But again, like if you didn't really want this late fee to start at that time, you'll be able to change the date on that page. If you do not want to do these settings, you can click no. So you could click use the suggested settings, and then it'll pre-populate. So now we are on the general info page. This is sort of the first major page. And this is where you put in a lot of the stuff that's very general for the registration. When do you want your registration to begin? When do you want your registration to end? Again, these info bubbles will give you more information about those things. The end dates, we do not allow you to end at 12 a.m. Thing that just keep in mind. Unfortunately, some people believe that 12 a.m. is the end of day, whereas the computer believes 12 a.m. is the beginning of day, you know, kind of like Happy New Year. You say that at the beginning of the day, not at the end of the day. So we stay away from 12 a.m. on end dates, late fees, things like that to decrease confusion. The base exam fee is the price that kind of a full price student would pay. Most of the schools that use total registration have total registration process payments and wish to pass on the processing fee. And the way to do that is to add $4 to the exam fees. So this year, the College Board's suggested price is $98. One thing to remember about that is that that includes $9 for the school. So the College Board is going to bill you $89 an exam. You keep $9. Most schools are charging that you do the payments, charge at least $102. That's completely up to you. We have schools that go all the way up to $120. We have schools that subsidize exams and charge far less than $98. So that's up to you. You can set obviously grade levels, just the grade levels that are be allowable. If you have some younger grades that occasionally take a test at your school, you may want to set your minimum grade lower. For those of you that are longtime clients, we've revised this and sort of grouped things. So general program options. One question is, would you like to ask this registrant if they go to the school? We recommend yes for this. By doing that, then you have the ability to wait list non-attenders down here. That means that non-attenders will be held pending and won't be registered until you approve them. It's a great way to control who's registering at your school. This is web-based, and so people could register on your site. So we would recommend wait listing all non-attenders. In the past few years, we've required schools to put in join codes. Schools now have the ability to opt out of having total registration. Opt out of doing the join codes, but we would recommend that you have TR distribute the join codes. I was a teacher for 11 years and an AP coordinator, and I just learned this. Not all teachers are super reliable with doing things like distributing join codes. They're very busy, they get consumed with things, and then don't have, they just don't do it out of time. And the problem for the AP coordinator is you cannot order exams for kids that haven't joined in College Board. So we recommend having TR distributed join codes. That when a kid registers in TR, they have the join codes right there. They have directions on how to do it, how to go to the College Board site, log in, and put in the join codes. And the nice thing is, if a student has 5 exams, they'll have all 5 of their join codes. They'll be able to enroll those all at once. If you have teachers distributing join codes, they may get their 5 join codes on different days, different weeks, different months. And so they can't all join all their courses at once. For schools that require students to take the AP exams, you'd want to select yes for this. If you put no to that, when students register after they pick a course exam, they will tell the system whether they want to take just the course so that can be an AP classroom, or are they also taking the exam. So for schools that require kids that are in a class to take the exam, you'll want to set yes to that. College Board, with their change to the fall registration a few years back, treats second semester courses differently. They have a different late fee date. They don't have to be ordered by November 15th. And so if you have second semester courses, you should say yes to this, because there's some things later that you'll have to set up for that. If you say yes to that, there's this other question that asks if you would like to if kids sign up for second semester courses earlier, would you like to wait list them? Or after a certain date, would you like to, sorry, this question is asking, after a certain date, do you only want kids to register for second semester? So if you say yes to that, you're going to put a date. Maybe you say January 15th. If you put that, only second semester classes will show to students after that date. Most schools will say no to that, and kids could still register for full year first semester classes. They will, of course, get whatever late fees configured. So I would probably recommend saying no to that. And then probably most of you don't have an IB program, but if you do, if you say yes to this, you will put in your IB exams, and then total registration has the ability to calculate conflicts between the IB exams and AP exams. That's kind of a big deal to the AP coordinator, because most often those become the problem for the AP coordinator, because they'll have to move the AP exam to the alternate exams. We have several options for waitlisting. If when your registration ends up at this date, you on March 3rd, you have the ability to allow kids to register and get added to the wait list. They won't be signed up for the test. They won't be able to pay until you approve them. Some schools have strict policies about kids taking exams. Sorry, no, this is the non-attenders. So we already talked about that. I would encourage you to waitlist non-attenders. It can control who's signing up. This other question is new. This gives you the ability to waitlist anybody who checks that they're independent study or no teacher. In College Board's terminology, that is an exam only section. So we would be waitlisting those, and you would have to approve them. We have some schools that have a large percentage of their kids try to take tests that they don't have class for, and they run out of space. And so they want to give priority to the people that are in the class. So they're waitlisting all the no teacher independent study and approving them as they can. And then this last option has to do with if you have second semester. If a student registers early for a second semester class, you can waitlist them, and then they won't be able to pay, and they won't show in your order until you approve them. That way you can hold those kids back from your November order, and then order exams for them later when you do your follow-up order. Students could have the ability to do some requests to their account. One is they can request an alternate date if you so choose. The exams they register for, then they would be able to say, this is after they registered. Usually this is something that people might do in the spring. They could request an alternate date. They'd have to give a reason. All these requests have to be approved by the school. So the student's not automatically signing up for an alternate. It's just notifying you that somebody feels like they have a need to do that. And then the last one here is if a student, especially this happens second semester, do you want to allow a student to choose to ask for an update for a teacher or period? Sometimes kids schedules change for year-long classes at semester, and they need to change their period and teacher so they can get into a different section for AP classroom. Last thing is just contact. This shows in the directions on some pages, the first contact to show you can add multiple contacts, but the primary contact is the one that shows a lot. So that is the general info page. This one's kind of a big deal because many of these things you answer have consequences later in the configuration process. The next pages are standard questions. So total registration after years of helping schools has generated a big long list of questions that you can use. We have some questions that the system requires. Obviously, email is the student's login, first name, last name, sex, and those are really the ones that the system requires. We recommend some other questions be required, like the student ID. I personally would require the student ID for students. So these two columns, this is for students that said they attend, and this is for people that said they did not attend, do not attend your school. You may choose to ask different information from some. For example, student ID makes sense from your students, maybe not for non-students. For example, if you have a homeschool attending, they don't have a student ID, so requiring that kind of gets complicated. We do recommend asking parent information. Our recommendations would be to require first and last name and email. We have some things that, if you collect them, can be very helpful, like cell phone. We have utilities that allow you to email students, but you can also text students, but that only works if they provide a cell phone. Same thing with a parent. So those are some of the options. In general, we would recommend only asking the questions you need. Sometimes people's disposition is to just require all these, but remember, every question you require slows down the family registering. So we recommend only asking the things that you need. Sometimes people need to ask other questions that aren't in our standard questions. And so you can create all kinds of different questions, right? So one of them would be, we had a school one year that had, they made t-shirts for their AP kids and they wanted to get their size. So you can do that. You could do a drop down, they choose their size, and so these are things you can do. So the custom questions can be helpful if there's something that you really need to collect that was not in the standard questions. After your questions are all set, you can put them in an order. We recommend putting them in an order that makes sense. Like I would add, I would keep the, the very simple demographic stuff near the top, their name, their birth date, if you have that, their grade level, all those kind of things. We do have multiple pages here, so you can order the questions for the parents, and we now in the registration separate all the financial questions. So that's the free reduced lunch question, the financial assistance STEM questions, all those questions are now on another page, and so you can order those there as well. The next page is where you're going to enter your fee calculations. So a large number of our schools use a simple multiplier. So that just means if a kid registers for 5 exams, their fee is going to be 5 times 102. Now, obviously, most schools have some kids that qualify for a reduced fee from the College Board, and that is typically called the free reduced lunch program. So that's set down here. If you have total registration process the payments, you do have to ask kids below if they're qualified for a reduced fee. You do have the ability to customize what that question is. So this is our default question text, but you could say, do you qualify for a reduced fee according to the College Board's requirements? You could say something like that. Some people won't know what those are. So we find this question to be beneficial for most schools. And then you'll set the fee. So when you approve a kid, the system's going to apply waivers to get the kid to a $56 fee obligation. So it's going to get, you know, a $46 waiver to get down to that, right? From the 102. Back up here with some of the fee calculations, some other options are you can have fees vary by the number of exams. Some schools have a policy where like the first exam is free and then you pay for the others. That would be done with fees vary by the number of exams. Another is people pay full price for the first 2-3 exams, and then they get a reduced fee on subsequent exams. And so that would be set there. So if you set that, then you're going to define how much each exam costs. The first exam, the kid's paying full price. Second exam, they're paying less, you know, and you can set up however, whatever you want with that. The other common thing is we have some schools that have fees varying by types of exams. So there are some schools that participate in some programs that cover the cost of all the STEM exams, math, science, sometimes English. So you can, if you have that, you would choose this option. And then when you edit the exam, you will choose which exams have a different price than the base fee. Any exam that has the base fee, you don't have to set that price. So we'll look at that when we get to the managed exams page. There's also some other options. This is used very rarely, and total registration would have to set up the fee calculation for you. But we've had some schools that have an AVID program, and the students that participate in AVID get a reduced fee. So they would check that, set up a question, and we set up a fee for that. So if you get to where you have something like that, a particular program where something's happening, you can do that. You can contact us and we can help you with that. You also have the ability to charge independent study or no teacher students more. So if you wanted to charge a premium for the kids that don't have a class, you can set that, and then you're going to say what that price is. So you could say, I want to charge $120 for those kids or something like that. New this year, we know we have some schools that are in the community eligibility provision program, which means that more than 60% of their students qualify for free reduced lunch. And so when schools that are in that program, the school is set up so that every school is getting a free lunch. When that happens, asking, do you get a free lunch, is kind of problematic, because only the kids who qualify for the program should get a reduced exam fee, not everybody who gets a free lunch. So if you say yes to this, we add another question that asks them why they're eligible, you know, based off of income, based off of their part of SNAP, all the various questions that would qualify. They're homeless, they're foster student or foster child, all those kind of things. So that's a new program that if you don't know what CEP is, then most likely your school does not participate in it. But if you know that at your school everybody receives a free lunch, nobody's paying for a lunch, you're probably in that program. So and then again, it'll tell you about all that there. So financial assistance, some schools have a desire to give discounts beyond free reduced lunch. So that's what this is. If a school says they're free reduced, if a student says they're free reduced lunch and they say they're financial assistance, they get pushed into the free reduced lunch approval queue, because the College Board will charge you a lower price for these kids. These waivers, the College Board's not lowering the fees. So this is something that the school would be doing on their own. And then this last question, the special waiver process, is especially helpful for schools that discount exams for STEM. For example, we have some schools in Georgia where the first STEM exam is no cost, but the second one is. So they use this question. And if you use this, the kids go into a approval process where you're going to actually micromanage waivers for every exam. We only recommend using this if you really need it. We don't recommend using it if you don't if you don't have a complex thing going on. Now, please send us a support ticket if you have questions about that. We can help you set that up and get going on that. The next page is where you set up late fees. Oh, we got all kinds of extras. I've been through the configuration too many times, and so when I accepted you won't be able to use our suggested settings more than once. It was because I kept putting this back. So normally we wouldn't have all this. You'd have we could get rid of some of these. Normally, if you used our suggested settings, you would have these fees. So anybody who registers after this date will receive a $42 late fee. Anybody who registers after November 2nd will get a $10. We do suggest using a smaller late fee before the College Board late fees. So late fees, we've learned, are a great way to motivate families to do things in a timely manner. Unfortunately, kids and families have learned that deadlines at schools are not really deadlines and that they can always get an extension. So they're not sure about late fees. So we strongly encourage you to use late fees, because if you have a smaller late fee like this, 95% of your families are going to register before this date. And so now your registration is a lot more peaceful at the end, because 95% of them are going to take care of it before November 2nd. You're not going to have a bunch of people wait until the very last minute to register. So we definitely encourage that. And the benefit of this smaller late fee, this is before the College Board's late fee. This is the school's money. If somebody pays this late fee, this is the school's. It doesn't go to the College Board. The College Board will start charging you a late fee for registrations after exams ordered after November 15th. We recommend setting a late fee prior to that. So that, again, you want to encourage kids, sort of a week before that deadline to get their act together. And that way you can check your rosters, do reconciliation and all those things to make sure that everything's good before you order. This second section down here is the same as above, except these late fees now apply to the second semester classes, the classes that do not start meeting until after November 15th. That might be third trimester, something like that at your school if you have something different than semesters. But these are for courses that begin meeting after November 15th. So you can have a different set of fees for those. The late fees should happen before your registration ends. So the trick is, once the registration ends in this little graphic here, people aren't going to be able to register. So if you set a late fee after the registration ends, there's really not any way anybody's going to get that late fee. So you want to make sure that your late fees occur before your end date. We recommend that your end date be before the final order in March. So you just keep your registration open until March with these late fees happening. So obviously the fall semester courses and the full year courses are all going to want to register early so they don't get these late fees. But if they miss it, they will still be able to. You'll still be able to place that order. The kid will take this, but they are going to pay more money. Some people might ask why 42 and not 40. Remember, total registration, if you have us do private processing, it costs 4% of what a student pays. So in order for you to have the full $40 to pay the College Board, you're going to want to go to 42, because the payment processing fee on $40 is $1.60. If that makes sense. So that's why we recommend 42, so that you can have enough money to pay the College Board's late fee. Payment processing, we have two options. You could do no online payments, or you can have total registration process payments. Remember, if you have total registration process payments, we do charge 4%. The info bubble will explain all that. If you want to learn more about this page, also remember, we got these things up here, which take you to our help item. about configuring the payment options. So 95% of schools have total registration process the payments. If you choose that, families have two options to pay: credit or debit online, or they can mail a check or money order. Some people really worry about the mail payment option. 99.9% of the payments we receive are done online. We really just have a few hundred out of hundreds of thousands that come in by mail. In this section, since if you're having total registration process the payments, you need to tell us who we send a check to and how frequently. Most schools will elect to have one check sent the end of May. We can process refunds and payments up through the Friday of the alternate exams, and then we start cutting checks right after that. So checks are sent out the sort of that third week in May, third, fourth week in May. So in time for you to make your payment for College Board invoice. You're going to tell us to whose attention we should send that, and also the email address for that person. When we email that the checks sent, we will include that person so they know to be on the outlook for the check. You do have an option to do partial payments. You can, if you choose to allow people to make less than the full payment, I would recommend usually doing the full payment, but if you recommend to do a partial, if you choose to do a partial payment, you're going to choose what the minimum that they would pay. We did have this set up for testing. I probably wouldn't have it at one. I'd probably set it at the College Board's cancellation fee. I'd probably set the minimum amount to do that. And then you have to ask a question. Now, be careful with this question, because some people change the question. And if they answer yes to whatever this question is, if they answer yes, then they're asking to do something less than the full amount. So don't change the meaning of the question. We have some people that change the question and it flips the yes, no. So you got to be careful with that. And then the last thing on it here is you're going to choose your payment deadlines. These are what we display to the student to try to motivate kids to get paid in a timely manner. Nothing's going to, just so that you know, nothing's going to actually happen if they don't do it by this date. If you want to cancel exams for kids that are not paid, you need to cancel them. That's not done automatically. So nothing happens automatically, but again, seeing that payment deadline kind of sets a fire under people and gets them paid. You also have the ability to allow families to make a donation. So if you set that, they can make a donation. Those are funds that the school receives. They're paid to you when we pay you the check, and then you can use those to help, offset waivers or things like that. I've been surprised actually on how generous some families are with that. Most schools don't do that, but it's certainly a possibility if you want. And so that's the main things on there. If you choose no online payments, you have some different questions. So if you're not doing no online payments, you have to tell the families how they can pay. It turns out they can bring in payment whatever they want because they're bringing that into the school. But this just lets them know what you're willing to accept. Some schools don't like to accept personal checks because they found that they bounce. So you can set that. And if you have another payment option that's not one of these, you can go and type that in there, and you can do multiple ones. So that's if you choose to do no online payments. Some of these other questions disappear for that. Refund policy, especially if you have total registration processed payments, which most people do, is very well defined. You can set a date by which a student can get a full refund. Most schools will set that before they order, because obviously after you order and the kid cancels, the College Board is going to charge you a fee. So this is the date by which kids can get a full refund. After that, if you choose to have a partial refund date, that kicks in. And then after that date, then there's no more refunds. So that's how that works. And again, one refund policy for the full year first semester classes and another policy for the second semester classes. So you set those here. You can always view your, after you set it, you can always see what your refund policy is, and this is what the kids will see is that. The directions are, we pre-populate your directions based off of all the settings that you've had before. New this year, we now have a merge code called timeline. So any of these things that have this asterisk, pipe, and then the capital, that's a merge code and will be replaced in the directions with anything that, with whatever you set. Here it's showing you what you've set somewhere. So you set this on your general info page, you know, you set this on your general, you know, it shows you where you set those things. So now we have this thing called the timeline, and the timeline is just put in your directions. So right here, and this is what's going to populate for everything that this school has set up. I mean, obviously, if you didn't have as many late fees and you don't have second semester stuff, then this timeline gets simpler. But the nice thing about it is it shows all the major events chronologically, so families have a very clear picture of what's going on there. We recommend that you do not remove the join codes. The join codes are nice because they're dynamic. So whatever the timeline is, it will all show. And so if you use the timeline, let's say you didn't have a late fee, and then somewhere along the line you decide to add a late fee, it's going to show in your timeline. If you were to hand type this in and you didn't have it, you'd have to come back and re-edit it. So definitely use the merge codes. Merge codes is completely editable by you. We populated it based off of best practices that we've learned over the last 16 years, but you're welcome to edit anything you want. We do change the direct directions. For schools that are having TR distributed, you're going to go and ask your teacher. First, if you have us distribute the joint codes, we'll explain to them that this is just one step. The second step is the College Board. So you're going to go log in at MyAP or create an account, and then you're going to use your joint codes. So the directions will explain all that. That also happens on the confirmation page. So this is the directions that will show on the registration form. This is the confirmation page for people that paid online. Here's a confirmation or paid by mail. And here's the confirmation page for people that paid online. Obviously, the directions for people that are choosing to pay by mail are a little longer because they need to know how to pay by mail. This is a very important thing to know. If a student ever chooses to pay by mail, they can always log back in on Pay Online. They are not obligated to pay by mail. So they can always log in and pay their outstanding balance at any time online. So that's just a really important note to do that, for them to know that. And then what's the message that appears when the site's closed, before it begins, those kind of things. Some schools have permission forms and things like that they want to attach, so you can always upload a permission form. Like some schools, kids need to travel off campus for the tests. The testing is off campus for some tests, and so they need a permission form for the parents to say that they're okay. And so anything like that, any document that you want to provide, you can upload. You can upload multiple ones. So you know, if you say yes, you can just keep adding forms. So I think that's great if you have something very particular that you need, especially if you need forms signed or anything like that. You could do that. These are sent to the family as an attachment to the confirmation email, as well as they have ability to download these on the final page of the registration on the success page, they're able to download those documents as well. I think they can also log into their account and download those documents, log into their TR account. AP policies, we've pre-populated with some stuff. You can set it. You can choose whether this is added as an attachment to the confirmation email or not. This is completely editable by you. Manage teachers. So the way that total registration is designed is you create a library of teachers. So these are all the teachers that potentially, this school has IB too. So there's other things in here with IB and AP, but these are all the teachers that could possibly teach an AP class. You don't need to put all your teachers in your school here, only the ones that are teaching AP. But let's say I have 10 teachers teaching AP this year. And then next year I have 10 teachers, but 2 of them are different. You can add the new teachers right up here. You can add teacher. You just need to put in their first name, last name, and their email, and click save. And you can add teachers at a time if you want, same kind of thing that we always have, just add more of them. But you can add those teachers and they'll be in this list, and it's okay to have teachers in this list that aren't teaching this year. You can leave them in the list. You do not need to delete them. Just leave them there. You just won't link them to a test. So later in the process, we're going to link the teacher to the course exam that they teach. So we'll do that when we manage the exams. Some people wonder what active and pending means. You have the ability to send the teacher right here. You can compose and send an activation email. Teachers have logins in TR. They can't edit things, change things, but they can see. They could see who's registered in TR for their exam. They can see the schedule of things. There's some things they can see, and they can do that if they've activated their login. If they haven't and they're pending, it's not going to hurt anything. The system will still work. They just won't be able to log in and access the teacher functionality. Just as a quick reminder, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the Q&A, and Rod will answer those if you can, and we will get to those at the end as well. Periods are kind of similar to teachers. You're setting up a library of them. This page is, you want to be careful when you create your periods, because the College Board doesn't talk about periods. When you configure a course or a section in the College Board, they say to have the section name, which as a teacher for 11.5 years, I don't know what a section name is. We never talked about a section name in school. We didn't have it. So people make up all kinds of things. So they will, you put the, so what we recommend is for your section name in the College Board just to use your periods. When we say periods, we're talking about what you have on the wall for your bell schedule. So this school has a 6-period day. Now we do have some extras because we have a semester 1, a period that's semester 1, and a period that's semester 2. Period 1, semester 1, period 1, semester 2. And the reason we have that is because, again, the late fees will be determined by these. So if you have a lot of second period or second semester courses, we would recommend setting up a schedule like this. It turns out by using period names for the sections, it's very familiar to both students and parents. They understand what a period is, right? I mean, my son went off to his first day of school today. I've already seen his schedule. I know he has first period off, like you can see the kids and the families know what the periods are. So we recommend saying that. The great news is, like, once you set this up, this is there every year. Your library teachers, it's there every year. There's no need to redo that stuff every year. Maybe if you added a period, you'd add one. Maybe if you got a new teacher, you'd add one, but the other ones are still there. So the nice thing is this major stuff still stays populated. You don't have to repopulate stuff every year. The questions you set up, your standard questions, those stay in there year to year. Things that you do have to redo, late fees, refund policy, all the stuff that's date related. This is the page where you're going to manage your exams and let the system know what kids can register for, or what courses or exams they can register for. So these are, this school has basically all the courses. So you can add a course, add an exam course up here, right? I mean, we have them all. The only one that we haven't added to this is the new pre-calculus class. So when you add an exam, you choose it. And then you can add a note, like if there's something particular about that, you can add it on. Like, for example, some schools don't call AP English language, AP language, they call it like AP English 11 or AP English 3. You can add a note on there if that helps your families know what's going on. You do have the ability to cap the number of registrations for a class. If you do this, if you set a cap, then let's say we cap it at 100. When that happens, kids won't be able to register for anymore. You do have the ability to wait list it. Or no, I think when you have a cap, then that's it. There's no more. So I would use the cap sparingly. I personally would not set a cap for most of my exams. It's something, you have an exam like Chinese that's high demand and people try to come from all over, you might cap that one, but most exams schools don't set the cap. You could put in your enrollment. There is a report that will show you how many kids are registered and how much your enrollment for the course is, and that way you'll know what percentage of the kids are registered that are enrolled. The kids who say they're non-attenders, remember, would not be enrolled in your class. So just take that into account when you review those things. But you can set up rooms and proctors, but to be honest, that's not something you're going to probably do now. That'll be something you do in the spring when you know who your proctors will be and things like that. But, if we set a room, we have rooms set up we could set a room and we have proctors. We can choose a proctor, you could do that. Let's say we have another room. I got another room. I choose a different room. Set a proctor for that room. Maybe it's a big room and it has 2 proctors, etc. You can set all those things up. I'm going to delete these because I don't really want those right now in the demo, but that's something that you'll mostly do later. The date obviously is set by the College Board. The time, you have the ability to set the times. We typically consider the time that a student would report. So, for this afternoon class, maybe you want the students to report at 11:45. Sorry, it should be AM, right? So that's when they'll see on their schedule that they're supposed to be there. We talked about fees varying by exam. This is where we set that. So if we wanted the fee to vary by the exam, we would select yes, and then we're going to say, what does a non-FR student pay? What does this is a student who is taking a class. What do they pay? What's an FR student in a class take? What about a student that's not in the class? So that would be like an independent study or one that doesn't have a teacher for some reason. And the non-student would be, of course, the ones that do not attend your school. So you'll set that up. We can look at an example of that you would use this for research and seminar, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Some schools have some scheduling issues where they have to offer the entire exam on the alternate date. If you need to do that, you set that here. If some schools want to waitlist every single registration for an exam, Chinese is often an example of this one. You can select that. Everybody will be waitlisted if you do that. Then when you get down to here, you're gonna pick you know, the teacher for this, and you might set up, it's offered third period, but it's also offered sixth period, so you might set that up. You can put in your join codes here. Later on, we can upload the join codes, so I wouldn't put those in. I'm gonna bail on this and not, so that I have one exam when I do this demo later. But let's go look at one of them that we had, like research. So research, you know, you might on that one go and do phase vary. You might say yes, but we can't set that because we chose fees vary by the exam. We have not selected that fees vary by the exam, so we have to go back and select fees vary by exam in order to select that. But everybody knows that research and seminar have a different price, right? For some reason, College Board decided to do a different price. So see, there was a question about digital exams and designating that. I don't know that you have to actually designate the you know, I don't know that you have to designate whether it's digitally or not. It doesn't fully matter. It will get, I would just let people know that. I mean, if you wanted to put that, you can put a note in, you know, up here, you can put a note that this is digital exam, you know, but to be honest, as far as it, I don't know. I don't know how you want to do that. I mean, the College Board's kind of made it interesting because there's some exams that are digital and some could be digital, some can't. And just because they do offer digital, they don't have to be that. So I'm not quite sure what you want to do with that. Down here at the very bottom, this is a good thing to know. If you want kids to be able to take this test that are not in the class, you should set up a no teacher independent study. To be clear, this is what the College Board calls a exam only section, which I think is kind of funny, because if a kid has an exam, they are not in a section. If they're only taking the exam and not a course, they don't have a section. So I think it's funny that it's called an exam only section, but we try to use terminology that people are familiar with. I mean, that concept of an independent study class has been around a long time. So that's what we would call the independent study, you know, so yeah, so that is the managed exams page. Let's say this school's already been configured, but let's say you're configuring and you've used total registration in the class and you don't have any, the exams won't be there. There will be a button here to copy all the exams from last year. When you copy the exams, it's going to take every exam you configured last year and put it into this year. It's going to adjust the times and the dates based off of what the College Board has set. You can, before you do that, set, if you want all your morning exams to report at 7:30, you can set that. All your afternoon exams to report at 12:15, you can set that, whatever you want to do. And then that will carry over into all these if you do that and do the update. Let's say I copy my exams from last year, and now all of a sudden we have all these, we have some exams, but there's something that we're not going to offer this year. Let's say last year we offered Italian, and this year we're not. If you don't want to offer it, all you need to do is make it inactive. If it's inactive, students will not be able to register for that exam. You don't necessarily need to delete it. Some people like to delete it, but if it's inactive, kids will not be able to register for it. I would leave it if you think that it's an exam that you might offer next year, because then when you copy them, it'll be there. If you want to offer it, you just click it and make it back active again. So if there's ever exams that you don't want people to register for, you can make them inactive. So that's a little trick on this manage exams page. So we've got down to the end, because I think we said we weren't going to do join codes, but let me go back. I think we probably said in this sample that we weren't going to do join codes. Maybe no, we did. We already had the join codes in though, but let me show you what the join code. Let me show you. Oops. Where did my bookmarks go? Let me show you what the join code upload page looks like. So if you're using join codes, you can download a file from the College Board that will have all your sections in your join codes. If you do that, you will need to save that as a CSV file. CSV file we found works best. You can do it as an XLS, but we do CSV. So we're going to go choose this file. We don't have a College Board account, so I had to hand create this file, but we're going to go ahead and if you know if you've created your once you've created your section of the College Board, you'll be able to download that file. And then we're going to select that file, upload that file we selected, and then we're going to go to reconciling our join codes. So now what the system's wanting to do is to match the College Board sections to the exam, teacher periods, and TR. So if it can match them, this is where being consistent with your periods and TR and your sections in the College Board becomes really helpful, because it auto matched all these. I don't have to do anything to match them. It pulled across the join code from the file. There's some it couldn't match, and it's usually when that happens, there's a discrepancy between the periods, right? So this one was a period 2 full year in the College Board, but here it's first semester class, so there's a little discrepancy there. You can force it by just picking that if you want, or not. You know, it's up to you. Once you match them here, you can click update, and then it will take those off. These ones up here are in total registration, configured in total registration, but they were not in the join code file. So these sections, these courses have not been set up in the College Board yet. So one of two things: either maybe you're not offering it this year, and if so, you should go make it inactive, or you can or you're going to need to go and create the sections in the College Board and upload a new file. On all the total registrations things, these are all links that take you back to the manage exams page, so you can go there and you can edit things if the periods aren't right or whatever. You can go and do that stuff easily by just clicking on the exam name. Once that's all done, you proceed to the configuration check. This is the very last step, configuration check. This is going to allow you to test everything. If you have errors, they will appear up here. You won't have congratulations, and errors need to be rectified. Most errors, you can click on a link and it'll take you to the page where you would fix that. It also has suggestions and notices. These are not errors. They don't have to be fixed. Some of them are like, you're using total registration payment. We just want everybody to understand that there's a fee for that. And so that's a notice. Just reminding you that you chose to allow partial payments. In this case, we haven't configured research and seminar to have a higher fee. So some schools don't charge more for it. Most schools do. So it's just trying to catch things like that. So we do recommend reading through the notices and all that. So now that we have completed this configuration, right, we can always go back to configure AP registration, and we could go and edit any of the pages that we've done. So we could go click on any of these and do that. So I want to go back and edit my payment deadlines. I can go down there and edit my payment deadlines. So everything in our system is editable. Now, having said that, there are some things that you probably want to make sure you get right the first time. It is very problematic if you change your exam fee, or you go and tell people you're ending on a date and you end it earlier. Families expect to, the information you give them to be accurate. So I would say, like, things that have dates and fees are very important to get right at the beginning. You can edit them. You are certainly welcome to edit them. It's just, if you change your exam fee, like lower it or raise it, everybody who registered earlier is going to have the higher fee or the lower fee. So some of those things you really need to be careful at the beginning, but again, the system is flexible and does allow you to do that. Another thing on the configuration check, it does give you, that timeline we talked about. By the way, these red things are not automatically set. These are just notices for you to see what the College Board's doing, so that you make sure, like, it'd be great to end your registration before the final ordering deadline. So like, if your end date was behind that, you better edit that. Now, any of these things are links. You can click on it. If you want to go set your end date, go that. It's going to take you back to the general info page. You can go change your end date, right? So it's all, the whole thing's pretty interactive. We also have a lot more. It'll show you what the, show you your directions. It shows you your exams, all your exam set. If you had fees vary by exam, it would show you which ones have that. I mean, it has all the teachers and the periods. It'll even, if you're missing a join code, and you said that we're distributing them and they'll be red, it'll tell you it's a problem. I mean, the configuration check is a great page to go to just sort of see all kinds of things. So, questions. I see a question from Jackie. You do not have the managed setup AP exams. You don't have that yet, probably because you're not to that step in the configuration interview. So Jackie, you'll want to go and continue in the configuration interview. That page will be one of the pages in there. It's one of the later pages in there. So you just got to keep going through the interview. After you get that page in the interview, then you'll be able to access it individually. Well, that's kind of all we've got. If you have any other questions, I'm looking at the Q&A. If you have any questions, this is a great time to ask them. If you don't have questions and you don't want to, let's see, somebody has their hand up. I guess. Oh, Jackie would, I think. Did I answer your question, Jackie? I think. Any other questions? We're certainly, I'll stay on here for a couple minutes and a few minutes. So don't feel obligated to stay on, but if you have any questions, just put them in the Q&A panel. You should be able to see, if you go to your Zoom like toolbar, you should see the Q&A and you can ask a question there. You're welcome, Cassandra. I know the Q&A panel may take a little time to get your question in there, so we'll stick around. If you have a question, just start typing it in there and we'll be able to answer your question. Question about the payment processing fee. So there's two fees for using Total Registration. One is the platform fee, and that's a fee based off of the number of exams, and it's tiered. So the cost is a little more for the first 500 exams, cheaper for the next 500, and then cheaper for the ones past that. So there's that fee. If you want to know what that is for your school, you can submit a pricing request. You can go to totalregistration.net and click on pricing request to submit that. So you can do that. And then for the payment processing fee, Total Registration charges the school 4% of the 4% of what the student pays. So we will charge the school that. Most schools want to pass that on, and so they build that into their exam fee. Most schools doing TR payments are charging at least $4 more than the College Board's price. There is a minimum payment processing fee, and that's $1.10. That really applies for probably reduced fee kids that are paying less than the full fee. But the payment processing fee, the minimum payment processing is $1.10. That happens if a student makes a payment less than $27.50. Another question: if you set an end date for first semester and year-long payments, let's say 11/14/23, can you override it for a special circumstance? Yes, students actually are able to pay after the payment deadline. So the payment deadline is just something that's shown to them to try to motivate them, but people are able to pay after that date. If you don't want people to pay, then you need to drop their exam in TR so that they can't pay. We don't recommend people drop the exam unless they know for a fact that they've communicated with the family multiple ways. The email communications are a great way to contact people. However, it is important to know for like canceling exams, you should probably reach the family through some other means at the very end. I would for sure communicate it via email, but in our experience, you guys that have school issued emails for kids, most of the districts block our emails. They do not allow emails from an outside thing. So that's actually a kind of an important thing to remember. If kids have a choice between using a personal email and a school issued email, the personal email is better because in general, it doesn't get blocked nearly as often as the district email. But any other questions? You're welcome, Keisha. I hope that answered your question. Thank you, everyone. I apologize that we went a little over, and I apologize for how disjointed I was at the beginning. We haven't done a configuration webinar for a while, so it took me a little while to get in the groove. I thank you for your patience and all that. I'll still stay on here for a couple minutes, so if you have a question, by all means, put it in the question panel. If you have a question that's more personal in nature and you just want to, always, you can always go to support.totalregistration.net or click on the help and support tab when you're logged into TR and submit a request. We're very diligent about answering those. Meredith is asking about the 2.75. Is that for the partial payments? I'm guessing on the partial payments, if somebody elects to make a partial payment, we add $275 fee to that kid because that's our money. So if you elect to do a partial payment, total registration is getting the $275. It actually costs us more to process multiple payments, and so that's why there's that fee. So we assess that to the kid. If you're talking about the payment processing fees, not the partial payment fees, payment processing fees, you don't have to increase your exam fee, but just know that we're going to charge the school. But the partial payment fee will automatically assessed to the student if they choose to make a partial payment. Well, thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great day. Let us know if you have any questions by sending a ticket. We're here to help. Thanks again for allowing us to simplify your AP exam processes. Hope you have a great day. Bye.